Hi, I'm Bruce Blitz, and welcome to Cartooning with Blitz. Now, I have a question to ask you. What do you picture when you think of a hero? How about this? No, that's a sandwich. Actually, I like my sandwiches a little fresher and a little bit fatter, too. Actually, we don't call these heroes in Philadelphia. We call them hoagies. That's where I'm from. No, when you think of a hero, you picture kind eyes, a strong chin, and big muscles, right? Well, today, we're going to put these elements together, and that's what we'll be doing, creating a couple of hero types. Now, for our feature of the day, a special guest will be joining us, cartoonist, illustrator, and good friend of mine, Jeff Mandel will be here, so stay tuned for that. I know you'll enjoy it. And for our doodle trick portion, a neat chalk talk gag with a surprise ending. I know you'll enjoy that, too, and I don't want to tell you what it is. You have to stay tuned. All right, so let's get started into our first type, and it's going to be of a woman. Now, this is a little bit different than what we usually do around here in that the features are a little more realistic, and I'm going to start with an egg shape, and I'm going to have the narrow part of the egg down at the bottom, and that's going to be her chin. Now I'm going to put the guy lines in right in the middle, and I'm going to wrap it around because remember, we think of this shape that we start with as a three-dimensional object, and that's the important thing, and that's what gives it roundness. It's not just a flat, looks like a guitar pick otherwise, and that's flat, but this has roundness. So now we've got that there. Go to my marker and we'll put in the features. Now right about here where that crisscrossed, I'm going to put her nose in. Now all you have to do for a nose on realistic features like this is a little line, very light, and on the bottom one, a little heavier. Because our noses protrude, some protrude more than others on some people, and the shadow would create a little heavier of a line like that. Now over here we're going to have her having a facial expression. So we're going to have her eyes wide open, like maybe she saw something. Maybe she just saw a crime being committed or something. So that's a heavier line on top because that's got the eyelashes. And over here we're going to draw her eyes, which are completely showing. In other words, you see white all the way around. Now usually you don't see that, but in this case we do because it's part of the facial expression. Now, this line here, you don't want to start drawing a lot of eyelashes, little lines like that. Looks like a spider. You don't want to do that. But you might want to have a little bit coming out the side like that. Now, for her eyebrows, I bear down in the middle, and then I taper off at the end like that. Now her eyebrows are up. Now for her mouth, and that's going to bring this all together, I'm going to draw her upper lip like this, and her bottom lip. So her mouth is actually open. We're going to double these lines so it looks like lips. Now we'll put in her teeth and her tongue, and the rest of it gets darkened in. So she looks like shocked or in disbelief. Right here we'll put a couple of real light lines to indicate a cheekbone. Now we're going to define the shape that we started with, which was the egg shape. Go right back. And the rest, well, we just put her hair in. So we'll go over that shape, give her some bangs, and go a little bit above that shape for the hair, because hair has thickness to it, doesn't it? And we'll come down this way. We'll maybe give her big earrings. And over here some hair. And her neck. And if you don't like the shape over here, and I kind of did that on purpose because I want to show you something, what you can do is you can fix it and incorporate that into the shadow, because there would be a shadow underneath her jawline that would be cast, and it also gives your drawing a little bit of depth. Here's the other earring. And you can also play with the outline of the hair as well, because hair is kind of sketchy also. And there you have it. All right, you know what? Let's put a little color into her. Now, facial expressions are very, very important in this form of art, comic book art, because a picture is worth 1,000 words. And if that's the case, you eliminate the need for a lot of words. Right over here, or right there. And I'm going to leave a little bit of white on her lip. And we'll use some black for her hair. And Will Eisner, the grand master of sequential art, this form of art, always says that the picture is what really communicates with the reader anyway. The words are kind of second. And there you have it. Okay, let's go on to our next type. But first, it's time for the gag sketch of the day. And today's gag sketch comes in the form of a pun. You tell me what this is. Maybe you have one of these at home on your computer. I don't know. This is 300 megahertz. 300 megahertz. See, she's got like a Band-Aid on. Her name is Meg. 300 of them. All right, we're not going to count them now, but all right, let's go on. Let's do a hero type. Now, this is going to be a guy swinging a punch, punching out a bad guy. Because you always need a good punching pose for your heroes. And I'll start with my pencil. And I'm going to start with an oval right here. And I'm going to lay out this cartoon with sticks and shapes. There's his torso, which is like a triangle shape, and his hips. Well, that's going to be a little bit the other way to give this drawing some rhythm. See, we have the shoulders that way, his hips that way. Now let's see what else. Well, his legs. Okay, his legs will be going out this way, one. And I'll put a triangle shape for his foot because it's going to be bent up in an interesting way. His other leg is back this way, and his other foot is way back there, and that's kind of foreshortened. You'll see what that means in a moment. This is his shoulder. Now he's going to be looking off this way, and his arm swung around, and here's his punch. Here's his fist, and there's his arm. And his other arm is over here. And that's all we've got to do. Now we're going to go to our marker, and we're going to finish this cartoon. I'll start with his face. Now, I'm going to start with his nose and his eyes. I'm going to have him wearing like a mask. And that's the fun part about creating your own heroes. You can create your own style, his own superpowers, or her own superpowers, and where they came from. That's always fun. Give him like a scowling mouth because he's angry at the bad guy. Now we're not going to draw the bottom part of his chin because that's going to be covered by his arm. Now his arm, we're going to come down that way, get to the elbow, flare it up, and then taper again at the wrist, and then come back. There you have it. Okay, now we'll finish up that chin a little bit, the jawline. All right, now over here is his fist. Now, these fists and these hands in this kind of art is a little bit different than what we usually do around here with the bubble nose kind of characters, where they're really big hands and everything. He's a little more delicate. Now, we're going to put the center line right down his torso, and that kind of indicates where the center is. Because remember, he's twisted a little bit, and that's a little tricky. So that's going to indicate his belt and his waist. Now we'll put in the rest of his muscles. And this is his pecs, and you don't have to go crazy with a knowledge of anatomy. Put an oval there for his emblem. A good working knowledge is all you really need. If it looks right, then it's good enough. Now that triangle there is going to indicate his trunks for his outfit. And now we'll put in his thigh. And now for his calves. Now his side flares out. That flares out as well. And there's his boots. Now, as I said, down here, this is going to be his foot, which is kind of bent up and facing towards us a little bit. So you see that? And we'll put a shadow under it. And his other leg, well, here's his thigh. Now that matches up to that one, but this part of his leg goes back and is seen in perspective, so his foot is much shorter in comparison to this foot. And that is called foreshortening. I'll put some lines in it because it's seen in a shadow. Now his other arm is over here, and we can put that in as his bicep and his forearm, tapering at the wrist. Come back. We can fix that up a little bit. And his other fist. Well, here's his thumb. And his fingers are coming backwards, making a fist. All right. Now, right here, where his arm is over his chest, we're going to have it casting a shadow. And that adds a little dimension to your drawing as well. All right, what else? Well, now we're up to the punch. So I'm going to put a big sound effect. Pow. And a splash around it. And the punch itself with a cartoon effect and accessory. And some lines this way. And I saved the best for the last, his cape. Now watch this. Get your whole wrist into it, make a real nice flowing line. And capes are fun to draw. This kind of fabric, because it bends and it presents itself. It presents some interesting possibilities. The only thing is I never understood how heroes were able to punch and do things with this cape flying around. Some bends here too where it flows around. All right, put that shadow there, maybe a horizon line, and now let's color this guy in. All right, I'm going to use a marker, yellow, let's use yellow, and go right over that whole drawing. Now usually we would erase the pencil lines and ink lines would stay and the pencil would go. But I just want to get to the color and show you because unfortunately we don't have as much time together as I'd always like to have. And this mask, that will get yellow. And I'll use red for a complementary color. Now, you know, it's very tricky to do this kind of art, but I'll tell you, I'd like you to do something for me. Let's color his boots in red, too. A good way to practice is to save your first attempt at this. And keep saving all of them. You want to number them, put them like in a little book, and take them out in a couple days, weeks, or whatever, and you're going to be so surprised at how much better your work has gotten. So don't get discouraged in the beginning, please. You'll be fine. All right, I'm going to use a little bit of blue for the effect. Boom, I like that. Some more over there. You take a look at this guy. I'll play a little hero music. Now stay tuned for the feature of the day. Well, it's always great to have a special guest join us, and it's especially nice when I can say that besides being a talented illustrator and artist, he's a good friend of mine. We used to do caricatures together, you know, cartoon portraits at fairs, parties, conventions, carnivals, and we worked side by side at the World's Fair in Knoxville, Tennessee. Now, my guest, besides being a talented caricature artist and cartoonist, has worked in a wide variety of artistic fields, and he's done illustrations, posters, web design, the list goes on. But I'd like to introduce him to you right now, my good buddy, Jeff Mandel. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Bruce. Good to be here.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Okay, now tell us a little bit about what you've been doing, like besides caricatures, and what kind of illustration work you actually get.
Oh, I get all kinds of jobs. People contact me a bunch of different ways, including the internet, and one of the main things I do is do illustration for the newspaper in Orlando, the Orlando Sentinel. Ah. And my illustrations appear there pretty much every month, every 2 or 3 weeks, in the sports section.
So they're sports cartoons primarily?
Primarily. There are in other sections, but primarily they're in the sports section. And we do all kinds of different things for all kinds of sports. The thing about newspaper illustration is you don't have a lot of time to do it.
Right, it's got to be right there.
There's always a deadline. They always have to have something right away. Because when you think about it, by the time they know when somebody wins a tournament, for instance, there's only a couple hours. By the time you have to totally draw that picture and get it done, you got to get it back to the newspaper that night so they can get it back to your driveway the next morning.
So there's a very short window of
work
time.
You've got to be fast.
Interesting.
And in fact, the kind of drawing that you and I did at the World's Fair really trained me to get that speed and likeness, and it came in real handy later on in life.
That's right, because if we didn't go quickly, we didn't make any money either, did we? You had to get the people in and out of the chairs.
We just had fun. We just had fun with what we were doing.
That was a great time. We had a great time down there doing portraits. Okay, now you're going to walk us through a typical assignment. Now, we're going to do the basketball team. Want to explain a little bit about that?
Well, they contacted me, the Orlando Sentinel contacted me several months ago. It was after the last season that the Magic had. They had a very good season. The team was known for a lot of heart and hustle. Mm-hmm. And they wanted me to do a team picture, which basically was 12 people together in one illustration. And it was going to be what they call a double spread on the newspaper. It was going to be 2 pages wide in color. So I had to draw this. I had maybe 2 or 3 days to do it.
2 or 3 days to do the 12 people in the picture.
Right. That's right.
Oh, that's pretty quick.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. And so I'm going to show you a little bit about how I pencil in the drawing and then ink it and the stages that I use to do this illustration. Okay, great. So we're going to take one person from the whole picture and work with that. That's right. Okay. Now, you've got this picture here. Now, this is? This is John Amici. Okay. He's the center for the Magic. Mm-hmm. And, you know, John is a great character because he's different than most basketball players you see. You know, the man is from Britain, I believe, and he's known for drinking hot tea before he starts the game. How about that? So he's got the English accent, you know. So he was a really great character to work with when I did this illustration. Okay, now from this picture, you would do the pencil stage, and you would actually draw him in? Yeah, let me show you. I'll let you tape that down. I'm going to tape this picture near the center of the paper and just do a quick little pencil drawing. I try to stay loose if I can. And just get the features that I believe are going to lead to a nice likeness for this picture. Of course, this is just guidelines now. This is only your first step. That's right. We're just doing guidelines, and later on we're going to ink. And you know, I always think of pencil as, you know, the idea is not to draw the same picture twice, first with the pencil and then with the ink. The idea is to use the pencil as a guideline, and then be free to change the ink drawing if you want to.
Right, right. It's sort of the first stage, and you're not locked into anything. Otherwise, there'd be no point. You might as well just go right to the ink.
That's right.
But if you went right to the ink, would you find that it might be stiff?
Yeah. Well, you know, obviously, when I draw at parties and conventions, things like that, I am drawing only with the ink first. And, of course, speed is an issue. People want the picture. They don't want to sit there while you do a pencil drawing first. But, you know, when I have a chance to do illustration, it's nice to just have the pencil down first and give me a chance to know exactly what I want.
Now, if you don't get a likeness during the pencil stage, you're not going to like it any better once it's inked in. Is that correct?
That's right. The pencil, I draw with the pencil and work it until I get what I think is a good likeness of the subject. And I'm going to draw this. He has a little goatee. Kind of hint to that.
Things like facial hair, they add to the likeness, don't they?
Yeah, you got to get those things. People just, for some reason, they hate it when you leave the facial hair off them.
Right.
Except, you know.
I remember when we did people out in public that if you would draw in their earrings or a certain bow in their hair, they were very impressed. They said, "Hey, look, he got the bow." I mean, as if we would miss that.
That's right. People love the fact that we can see details, you know. But
yes.
As an artist, you know, that's your job. Observation is your job. You have to develop your knack for observing what's in the face or whatever you're drawing as an artist, and really develop that to a level that other people would not see those details that you see.
Now, you're not exaggerating all that much, although you are humorizing it a little bit, aren't you? You're not usually.
Yeah.
I mean, people think that a caricature is when you exaggerate to the max, and that's not really the case, is it?
It can be. Some caricatures are extreme exaggeration. The kinds of caricatures I do in the newspaper, I like to really push the good likeness.
Yes.
And I don't try to go crazy on the exaggeration. But that's just my style. Now, I have done other kinds of things where I do more of exaggeration.
Well, let's go ahead and ink this in now, just for the sake of time. And this will be the first stage.
Okay. So we got a basic feel for the head here.
You like this, and let's say you would be content with this, and you want to continue.
That's right. So now I'm going to take the ink. I'm going to start with the eyes, and I'm going to use this this particular marker I have, which is really good for getting thick and thin lines.
Yep.
And
thick and thin lines, excuse me, they make it a little more interesting, and you find a little more flexibility. Yeah,
the thick and thin lines to me are what really makes a cartoon pop off the page.
I see.
It really comes to life. You know, you can do cartooning without using a lot of variation in thickness, but I've always just been a fan of really pushing a line on a paper. Yeah. So I'm going to... Makes it a little more interesting, and not quite as boring when it's just the same thickness throughout the whole drawing. That's right. That's a good tip at home. Yeah, so I'm going to... There's certain places, too, that you want to get thick on, you know, like underneath the nose, you know. Because of the shadow, is that correct? That's right. It works for a shadow and also kind of gives the nose a three-dimensional character. Like, for instance, the center of the mouth. I'm going to get a little bit thicker there and a little bit thinner on the top of the mouth here. I'm going to get thick right here under the lip, for instance. Okay, again, for more dimension. That's right. And depth. Well, it looks just like them. You really, you got the likeness. Thanks. So we get this a little bit more facial hair, always important. Never want to do a lot of facial hair when you're drawing a woman, though. They don't like that. Wait, Jeff, yes. Wait a minute. Where did we lose you here? Okay, come on. Okay. All right, now after you get done with the ink stage here, now you could have inked this in a computer, but you can certainly color it in the computer, and I have that done for the next stage. For the sake of time, I'll bring this out. That's right. And this is what he looks like, all inked in, and even with the color. That's right. We colored that in. It's kind of like a watercolor, you know, on top of the lines. And very nice. I work in stages. I usually do the heads first, and then I'll get all the faces done, and then I'll start laying out bodies and figuring out where those go. So next we're going to look at the bodies and how we have to situate 12 people on a page. That's an interesting stage to me because that has always been a tough one. Now you must work in pencil on this one. You got to work on pencil on this one. You're talking about 12 people have to somehow fit together. You can't have one person in front of the other where there's not enough room for his face. So this body in particular is John Amici that I'm drawing now. And John was a really neat character because of the fact he liked to drink tea and the British thing. I decided to bring that out in the picture, so I have him here standing with a cup of tea. And people really did, in fact, like the fact that I did that. They thought that was really funny.
Well, now, do you do that for every player or every person in this picture? Did you figure out a little nuance about that person and,
no, I didn't.
Incorporate it?
I didn't, mostly because there's just not enough time to do that.
Well, now here he is all inked in, colored in, and with the body and everything. Boy, that looks great, Jeff. That really does.
And that's just John by himself without the group. And in a minute, we'll see the whole group together.
Okay, well, let's bring that out right now. Now, here it is. Jeff, I got to tell you, this is beautiful work. Look at that. A two-page spread. That's very nice.
Thanks a lot.
Now, let me ask you a question. Did anybody ever contact you after it appeared in the paper and said that they liked it, didn't like it, or anything like that?
As a matter of fact, John did contact me.
John?
He emailed me right after this came out, and he said, I heard that I was holding a cup of tea. He, when he's off season, he lives in Arizona.
Yes.
So he wanted to see the picture that showed up in the newspaper, and I sent him a copy of it. And he thought it was great. He thought it was really great.
Well, it really did come out very nice. And I'll tell you, Jeff, you always were and you still are a great cartoonist. And I want to thank you for coming to the show today and sharing these tips with our friends at home.
Thanks for having me, Bruce.
Our pleasure. Now, for more drawing fun and information about Jeff Mandel, visit me on my website at bruceblitz.com. We've got crafts, projects, all sorts of neat things. Thanks again, Jeff. Now stay tuned for Cartoon Doodle Tricks. Welcome to today's Doodle Tricks, and I'd like to welcome my friends in the studio. Hi, guys.
Hi.
All right, now, remember in the beginning of the show I said we would do a chalk talk gag with a surprise ending? Well, here we go. And it starts with an oval. Like that. All right, now we're going to draw a woman, an old woman. We'll start with her nose, and let's draw her eyes. And some eyebrows. And now let's put her eyes. And let's give her some lines over here from all the time she smiled. And she's an old woman, has seen many things. She had a great life. And she's done a lot of traveling. And she raised her children, and she's got grandchildren, and she's retired now. She had a great career. Now she spends a lot of time. Put some lines up there for her hair. Now let's see, over here, let's give her a collar and a big fluffy head of hair. And put some lines in it to make it look like hair. So when you've done it all, here's the deal. The bottom line is you're as young as you feel. And there you have it. Put a little color into this on her lips and on her cheeks. There it is. You like that, guys?
Yeah.
Well, that's all the time we have for today, and I hope you've enjoyed it at home, and I hope you guys liked it. Now, for our tip of the day, build a great portfolio one sketch at a time. Have this fella here with his portfolio, and a portfolio is what you use to collect all your great sketches. He's got them flying all over the place. He's happy. I'm Bruce Blica saying thanks for being with me today, and help me out, guys. Keep on cartooning. Just like that.